Something in common. You're listening to Indus here on BBC Radio Manchester and BBC Radio Lancashire. It's 10 minutes till 7 o'clock. Now, Minhaj Welfare Foundation is a charity that's been working in the Northwest for about 20 years. They have a base in Nelson and a head office in Manchester, and they've helped thousands of lives over the years in South Asia and also run educational projects in the UK. So tonight we profile the charity, Minhaj Welfare Foundation, and joining me in the studio tonight is Project Manager Adnan Sohail and Managing Director Faisal Hussain. Welcome to the programme. How are you guys? You all right?
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Good.
Well, thank you for taking Sunday out to come and speak to us.
It's a pleasure,
Now,
especially looking outside.
Well, exactly. It's a nice view from here as well, isn't it? That's the plus point of being here in Media City. So, as I've mentioned, the charity has been running for 20 years now. I remember when I first came up to work here in Lancashire, and one of the first charities I came across was Minhaj Welfare. And we've been sort of covering your work over the years. But tonight I thought it'd be nice to get together and discuss a little bit more about, the challenges that the charity has faced. So let's go back in time a little and how Minhaj Welfare Foundation came about. Who's going to answer that first? Faisal, go for it.
Minhaj Welfare Foundation was founded in 1989 in Pakistan, mainly fulfilling philanthropic aspirations in Pakistan, predominantly fulfilling educational projects and whatever is surrounded by it.
Right.
But over the period of time, it's the overseas Pakistanis took over the whole concept. They spread it throughout the whole world, and the network spread. They founded organizations, branches of that organization throughout the whole world, and eventually it turned out to be that UK was our, let's say, the main hub. It turned out that the grassroots organizations, the grassroots community of UK really took that concept on board, and Minhaj Welfare Foundation, from a only Pakistan-based charity, turned out to be a worldwide charity.
Right. And where is it based in Pakistan?
It's based in Lahore.
In Lahore, right.
It's based in Lahore. And they were working hard. They established a good network of schools on their own, fundraising in the UK, in Pakistan, and implementing in Pakistan. But when it became worldwide, UK being one of the major supporters of the charity, Minhaj Welfare Foundation UK was founded in Nelson in 2000. And over the past few years, the work increased so much. UK became so big. Our work spread a lot in Europe, in USA, and in Canada. So we felt it was a need to also move our head office out of Pakistan into the UK. So UK became our base for our global activities. And we, not too far from here, just a wee jump from here is our head office,
okay,
which deals with all our US branches, UK, Canada, Europe, and everything. There's probably not many countries left where we don't have a registered branch, providing our donors full tax relief facilities that they can have, including the UK, where we can claim gift aid and so on. UK is probably the only country where the charity can claim gift aid. Most other countries, it's the donor who claims the tax back.
Indeed.
So we've now turned into a very worldwide organization. Our network of schools started off from about 50, but now we have about 650 schools throughout Pakistan.
Right.
And our model of the schools are they're not welfare-based schools, so we make very normal schools, just like a normal private school that children go to, and then we subsidize the kids. We provide them scholarships from deprived communities, so they don't feel like they're going to a charity-only school where poor kids go. It's a normal community school, and kids from the normal community are going there, fee-paying kids, but at the same time, almost 70%, sometimes even more percent of kids are subsidized and provided scholarship by Minhaj Welfare Foundation to participate in those schools.
Okay.
That's our core, is mainly education, grassroots education in deprived areas in Pakistan. That's, I would say, almost 60 to 70% of our donations are surrounded around that cause.
Okay.
But we also do emergency relief. We're probably one of the first organizations at the border of Bangladesh serving Rohingya communities over there.
Right. Well, I was going to bring in Adnan Sohail, who's the project manager, and clearly you've been serving the communities abroad for quite some time. So let's talk through some of those projects that you've worked on in particular, and how has your experience been?
Well, my first experience when I came into the sector, I was quite young. I volunteered at a very young age, and when I became project manager in 2008, my first assignment was the Pakistan floods in 2010, and it was an awe-inspiring experience. I had the opportunity to travel from Nowshera all the way down to Sindh, and to see the response from the British public was immense. We followed through our network of volunteers and members, and the actual donations that were raised, the fundraising that went through to actually help assist those people in need, what was amazing. And that was for me in particular, the first time and first ever experience on hand-on experience in terms of working in a very emergency-like situation. And after that, we've been to, as Faisal mentioned, to places like Somalia, we've been to war-torn areas, we've been to Kenya, we've been to the border of Turkey and Syria, we've been to the border of Myanmar and Bangladesh, where we assisted in emergency situations, providing emergency relief, food aid, working on development works. And all of this, again, has to come. I think the success story here is that our network of volunteers and fundraisers in the UK, and particularly being broadcasting in the Northwest, they've just worked together to fundraise a huge amount of donations for us to be able to go out to these countries. We've actually taken some of the volunteers as deployees to some of these regions for them to physically distribute aid themselves.
Right. Okay. Well, do stay with us, and then we'll continue our chat with the Minhaj team.
Indus with Talat Farouk Arwan.
BBC Radio Manchester and BBC Radio Lancashire.
Hello and welcome to Indus if you've just joined us here on BBC Radio Manchester and BBC Radio Lancashire. And tonight we're profiling the Manchester-based charity Minhaj Welfare Foundation, who's been working in this region for about 20 odd years. They have a base in Nelson as well as a head office in Manchester. And joining me in the studio is project manager Adnan Sahel and managing director Faisal Hussain. We were talking about some of the projects that you guys carried out. When something happens abroad in South Asia, do you react immediately, or do you assess how the situation is and then decide whether your help is needed? Let's go to Adnan on this.
I think with any NGO or with any organisation looking at emergency response, I think it's important that we assess first, and I think most of the time we respond within 24 hours. Recently, the situation in Bangladesh with the refugees coming over from Myanmar into the border area, we responded instantly. We had our own volunteers and our own office based in Bangladesh, where we had our team going into the Cox's Bazar area to distribute aid and assist with emergency efforts. And I think the same situation happened in Kashmir in 2005 and also in Pakistan floods 2010. So it's quite responsive. I think that helps us out with the fundraising, especially with modern technology of social media and the photos and videos coming back here into the UK. We're able to distribute that amongst our volunteers and our fundraisers, and that helps us to generate a lot of funding for an ongoing emergency response. A situation in emergency response, you do need a lot of cash donations, you do need a lot of donations to continue the flow of assistance, and I think that's something that Minhaj Welfare Foundation has achieved over the years quite well.
I mean, it's quite difficult, isn't it, raising money for any crisis out there? Do you feel there's ever, times when there's charity fatigue and people are tired of giving? I know for Muslims it's part and parcel of their faith to, give money to the poor. But are there times when you struggle as a charity to get people to donate? Let's bring in yourself there, Faisal.
It feels like it, but we've never struggled. Somehow the Muslim community just sails over the fatigue and still keeps giving and keeps giving and keeps giving. Despite so many more charities opening over the past 20 years, when in the good old days there was less number of charities, there was a lot of donations coming through, but we haven't seen our donations, even though You can imagine the number of Muslim charities has
Yes, because
thrived.
I was going to say there are so many that it's all quite difficult to decide
Popping
who to
out.
give to, isn't it? Who do you give to?
Correct. Despite that, we've not seen a reduction in our donations. We've grown over the past few years. We have a particular way of working. We keep a low profile. We don't. We have a certain number of projects that we've got our commitments towards, and we raise the necessary funds for that. But we don't necessarily go full on, full out. We have a certain number of fundraisers that we need to do every year. We have a certain number of events that we need to do, and a certain number of funds that we need to raise. And we try to get that done in a very nice and healthy way so that we manage to retain our donors. We have a good network of donors, and our donor retention is very good. We do venture out every now and then. So, for example, recently we took on a project in Carnival, which was a very large land donated by somebody, and we thought it was a good location. Let's open a girls' college over here, along with that a vocational training center and so on. So for these things like these, we venture out. We test our network and see what their capability is to raise an extra amount of funds. And certainly sometimes the last year, the Rohingya crisis, as soon as the crisis happened in 2017, we were actually there. It was in the middle of the Qurbani season, so we were distributing Qurbani in those camps, and suddenly we saw an influx of people coming over because of the violence. So our teams were already on the ground. We knew exactly what the situation was. We were, I think I wouldn't be wrong to say, we were one of the first British Muslim charities to be on the ground while this crisis was happening, and we were able to mobilize our fundraising machine as well as our ground teams pretty immediately. I was there at that moment in time when this whole crisis happened. A lot of my videos became viral, not just here in Pakistan as well. So our donor base became very active immediately, and I was able to pull together a good team of about 250 volunteers. I was busy doing workshops and organizing which projects to undertake, trying to do surveys on exactly where do we need to start
in Bangladesh.
Yeah. So we started off our immediate emergency relief by opening a medical camp, and we thought we were going to have at least 400 or 500 patients a day, but we were dealing with over 1,100 patients a day.
And how do you prepare your team to, when going out to these areas of emergency? How do you prepare them?
We outline the projects that we need to do. The first thing we need to do is procurement. So we try and meet all the suppliers, all the producers and manufacturers and stuff like that. So I spent almost a week speaking to all the rice mills, and we try and get the material as cheap as possible from the top of the pyramid rather than going down there. But we also try to purchase locally instead of getting it, so that the local economy works. The local people are also feeling like they get a share of the aid, because there's a lot of poverty in Bangladesh as well. So if we're buying stuff, for example, from China and distributing within the Rohingya families, you pretty much bypass the whole local community that you also need to support while you're working over there. So we purchase a lot of our stuff local. Water pumps, clean water was a big issue, so we met a very large manufacturer of clean water pumps. So it took me a week to outline all the suppliers that we were going to get them, negotiate everything with them, and then over the period of the next week, we organized workshops with volunteers. Which doctors are we going to engage? Which volunteers are going to help us do the distribution? And we broke our teams into different projects that we were going to conduct. We had a team right at the border who was facilitating all those refugees coming immediately. So we had vehicles and we had to get them. The injured ones went straight to our medical camps, and the others went straight to they didn't know what to do when they arrived. So we knew how to get them to the camps where they need to get allocated some shelters, some places where they can go. A lot of the people just hang around for at least a month before they actually know what to do, where to get the aid from, where to get yourself registered as a refugee, how is the whole process going to work. So we took them straight from where they were crossing the rivers, and we took them into the shelters that they need to go, or if they needed medical assistance, to go over there.
Okay. Finally, you guys, what's the future for the charity? You're going strong. You've been going over 20 years and longer than that, obviously, in Pakistan. So what's next for you guys?
I think I'll answer some and let Faisal answer some. I think I remember when Minhaj Welfare Foundation was first founded, our mass education program was launched in 1994, and we started.
Just on the education front, is it just? It's not just religious education;
No,
it's general
secular education. We
right?
have more than 640 schools. We have a university which is chartered and registered. We have people going through various education reforms across Pakistan and
Right.
South Asia. So in Pakistan in 1994, we initiated the mass education program. We started in a small living room, in a small drawing room, where we had 10 to 15 students, and that was the success story. And I think it's back to basics for Minhaj Welfare Foundation as we look to expand on our education program across the world, focusing mainly in Pakistan and South Asia, where we want to provide quality education to thousands of orphan and needy children. As Faisal Bhai has mentioned, that we recently launched a girls project called Our Betiyan, Our Mustaqbil, where we are providing
Our daughters, our future.
daughters, our futures. It was a women-led initiative. £1,000 were raised and fundraised by women here in the UK to fund this project in South Punjab, and we're doing something similar across Pakistan, where we're building schools, where we're developing our existing schools. We're building orphan care homes. We already have 5 orphan care homes across Pakistan. Our intention over the next 10 years to build more orphan care homes in smaller villages, in smaller towns, to ensure that those children can stand on their own 2 feet.
Yeah. Do you ever face criticism from people here that, you know, you're doing all this work abroad, but nothing here in the UK to help those who are less needy here?
It's not criticism, I guess it's feedback, because a lot of Muslim charities are transitioning from first generation donors to second, third and now fourth generation donors. So the demand from most of the fourth generation donors are not to spend the money back onto their root countries, because they have less of a connection with those roots. They would like something locally over here. We've been doing on and off small projects, but over the base of this constant feedback that we've been getting from our third generation donors, we launched a project called Minhaj College Manchester. It's one of the many colleges that we're planning to have throughout the UK. It's a subsidized institute where people from Muslim families who are who struggle to integrate their youth, their kids into normal educational systems, or who are concerned about certain atmospheres that they'll find. We have a good mix of let's say, an Islamic environment, but a very secular British education system. We've adapted the syllabus of that college, giving them Islamic studies, focusing more on their integrational responsibilities rather than how they would learn back in their own countries. So we have certain modules on what the integrational responsibilities of Muslim kids are when they're going into universities and so on, taking them out of isolation and making them more integrated faith leaders of the future. This college has turned out to be a very successful project. We started our first batch with only 6 students, so we were all a bit concerned, saying, okay, is this going to work out or not? But we did a lot of outreach over the last year for this college, and this last September, just about 2 weeks ago, we started our second batch with about 22 students.
Right.
So whatever we did over the past year, it worked. The news spread. Whichever kids went through their first year, their feedback helped us get more students, and we think things are moving in the right direction. And we're hoping within the matter of 3 years, it'll be right now it's a private college, but it'll be a government-funded institute, because we're fulfilling all the regulations and we've got certifications from all the authorities to meet those criteria. But it takes about 3 years for an institute to be recognized that the A-levels is going to be funded through there. We saw a lot of Islamic schools in the UK, and especially in the Manchester area. What we saw was a gap. As soon as you come out of your Islamic school, your secondary Islamic school, you don't have let's say a medium Islamic environment where you can do your A-levels as well at the same time with all the science subjects and everything. So that's where we saw the gap here for the Muslim community. And we fundraised for it. We went to our third generation donors. You've been asking for something. This is what it is. This is what the plan is looking like. And they supported it very well. And we were able to launch this institute last year. And inshallah, it'll carry on. This would be one of the few branches that we're planning to have.
Okay, well, good luck with your work, and here's to another, I suppose, 20 years.
Yes.
But thank you very much for your time. That's Managing Director Faisal Hussain and Project Manager Adnan Suhail from the Minhaj Welfare Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Most welcome.
Appreciate it.